To be a Steeler is to consider others before you consider yourself, to protect your brother even from himself, to give support at your own expense. And when wearing the black and gold suit of armor, make sure nobody desecrates it, disrespects it. Most importantly, we ourselves don't dishonor it. The only approval any Steeler should seek is to earn the approval from previous legends who have donned the black and gold. And if you've really earned their respect, they'll say, you could have played with us.
Hi everybody, welcome to Training Camp Live presented by FedEx, where now meets next. Troy Polamalu, just one of 3 Steelers to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame last night in Canton, Ohio. It really felt like Heinz Field, and that is where I am joined by Craig Wolfley. We were just reminiscing about last night, Wolf, and just what a great night it was for the Steelers organization. Just heartfelt messages. Of course, that was just a piece of what Troy said on the stage, but we also heard from Donnie Shell and also Bill Cowher. What was your biggest takeaway of a special night in Canton?
The sincerity of all 3 men, the incredible passion that all 3 men possess for the game, for the Steelers nation, for the Steelers club, just in and of itself. These are men that are just high character, high quality people, that they're remarkable in what they've accomplished in their career. I mean, you go to Donnie Shell, and you think about the fact he had 5 or 6 seasons of 5 or more interceptions when they only threw the ball half of what they do today. And yet he was the noted hitter out of the group, but yet he was able to make plays like that. You've got Troy, who revolutionized the free safety and did such a great job at the free safety position, and it was fabulous. And you saw the job of Bill Cowher, even to the point where he was pointing at it and his bust. I mean, the passion, but yet the selfless humility, and I just thought that it was a remarkable night, given all those terrible towels waving like crazy. Man, what a time.
Could you imagine not being a Steelers fan there? There were terrible towels, number 43 jerseys everywhere. Just the excitement. I think that stadium holds about 18,000. And Chris Berman, who was the master of ceremonies, joking that, you know, it felt like it was at Heinz Field, like it was a Pittsburgh Steelers home game. Let's take a look back at some of the best sights and sounds from Saturday night in Canton.
We can do better than that. We ready to roll? Yes, we are. You brought them. It's time to use them. Donnie Shell is going into the hall.
It's been a long journey, but a good one. I arrived in Pittsburgh in 1974 as an undrafted free agent, and now I'm in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
You guys didn't put those towels away that long, did you? Rarely has there been a player like Troy Polamalu.
These virtues I learned while playing for the Steelers are what make the legacy of the black and gold timeless. They are passed down in the locker room from the steel curtain to anyone who valiantly wears the black and gold, creating a brotherhood that is deeper than money, business, and winning.
I still think there's some black and gold out there, like a lot. Succeeding a legend sure applies to Bill Cowher.
You know, coaching, like playing, is a brotherhood. You share the joys of winning, the frustrations of losing, and thrive on the next opportunity to do it again.
And it will be another special night tonight in Canton, Ohio. Alan Faneca, part of the 2021 Pro Football Hall of Fame class, will be officially enshrined as well. And Wolf, we were here in Pittsburgh, as was a number of fans all throughout the country. It was great to see former and current players, Steelers Nation, celebrating on social media last night, just what the messages meant, as we talked about from all of the different speeches. Heinz Ward, of course, will be presenting Alan Faneca. Got a special shout out from Troy, former Steelers quarterback Bruce Gradkowski, and I just loved all the shots of the fans. There was a Troy imposter there, but you know, he got a lot of TV time, but he really came to, you know, celebrate Troy and just the hair and what that meant, and you know, even just Troy taking his hair down in the middle of his speech to talk about his heritage and where he came from and what made him the person that he is today. So just can't say enough great things, and those are speeches I think we will see again and again because of what they meant.
I think those are going to be timeless. And I think you made a great point when you came on before we went on the air here, and you said, you know, those speeches, you might want to have the players of today listen to those speeches because they are precious. They are filled with great wisdom of men who have gone before these class of players today and who have laid their bodies out and given all they gave to the game. And yet they have also inspired generations of players in the years since they wore the black and gold. Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea to let all the young bucks be able to listen to that message.
Yeah, Troy mentioned Joe Green, of course, and then you saw Franco Harris when Troy said, you know, the only thing you needed was to know that the older generation would say, hey, you could have played with us. That's when you knew you meant it. And Franco kind of nodded along. So it was a very cool sight to see. Again, tonight will be special for Alan Faneca. We're going to hear from him just a little bit later in our show, but there is practice once again open to the public here at Heinz Field for the Steelers. Not in pads again, so 2 days of no pads. Maybe we'll see them at some point before their next preseason game in Philly on Thursday. Let's head over to the Ford Fan Zone. Mike Prisuta is here. Sunglasses, all right. No hat though, Triv. Tell me what you are seeing in terms of the players as they're getting ready to warm up.
Well, before we go there, Missy, I got to remind you, we have seen a Troy Polamalu impersonator prior to last night.
We've seen several, yes.
That wasn't that big a deal. There was one at St. Vincent College a few years ago. That's been a thing for a while. In terms of what's going on as the players take the field behind me, T.J. Watt brought a helmet with him today. Yesterday he was wearing a baseball hat. I don't know what, if anything, that means, but T.J. Watt brought a helmet, not a baseball hat. Antoine Brooks still has the floppy hat, you know, the Gilligan hat, the kind that I'm never going to wear personally, but hey, it looks good on you. That usually implies you're not going to do anything, although Mike Tomlin was optimistic about Brooks yesterday, or at least hopeful that he would be available for the Eagles game coming up on Thursday. Benny Snell rode the bike again, and he played a little catch with running back Tony Brooks James, excuse me. I'm showing my Cincinnati Bengals age there, James Brooks. Did not see Stephon Tuitt again. Keith Butler, the defensive coordinator, said that Tuitt was not with the team yesterday. He is still dealing with the incredible tragedy that he and his family suffered in the summertime, and I did not happen to see if Kalen Ballage was down there or not. But as we spoke yesterday, Missy, Kalen Ballage, a guy who's shown some good things in camp, and I thought he took another couple of steps forward in that preseason game on Thursday night.
All right, Triv, I do want to ask you about Matt Canton and Keith Butler speaking yesterday, but before we get to that, it is entwined throughout today's show as well as it was yesterday, the Hall of Fame taking place in Canton, Ohio. What did you make from the three speeches? I know you probably heard Wolf and I discussing it, but what else can you add to what last night meant to you personally and probably to the Steelers organization?
I think I can just agree with you guys. I thought Wolf picked the perfect one-word summation: sincerity. You know, and I listen to Donnie Shell, and you hear his love of his alma mater, South Carolina State. And, you know, a lot of people, I'm one of them, in a way you never leave college. And I think Donnie Shell, that love and respect for and appreciation of his head coach and of where he came from. Bill Cowher, the passion. I mean, the guy will never have an off switch, I guess. And, you know, he's Pittsburgh through and through. And then Troy Polamalu, humility. And it's sincere, genuine humility. He's just an amazing guy. He's like nobody I've ever met in or out of athletics. And I got to tell you guys, I've been fortunate enough to have covered the Steelers for somebody since the last 3 games of the 1986 season. And I've seen a lot of really good people come through that locker room. You're sitting next to one of them. Our former colleague Tunch Ilkin is another one. But, you know, in the race to be best human being, I got Troy in the lead in terms of who I've met. He's just a remarkable person on every level, and I'm so happy for him.
I thought it was super cool just as he was stepping up to the podium. Steelers Nation going crazy. He had to ask everybody to kind of quiet down. They were cutting into his time, essentially. But then I just thought to myself, can you imagine, Triv, where we are right now inside Heinz Field, what it's going to be like when Troy comes back for a game this season, and just the atmosphere it's going to create?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty crazy. Although I think what Canton is experiencing this weekend, Steeler Nation has made a habit of making that trek. It's not that far a drive, and it's certainly a worthy occasion. But I don't know that, you know, a lot of circumstances involved here with the two classes being combined. I don't know that we're ever going to see 5 from one team in the same weekend ever again.
Absolutely. All right, I heard the horn, so that means the warm-ups are starting down on the field. As I said, Matt Canada and Keith Butler both spoke to the media yesterday following that first preseason game. We'll start with defense. What did you take away from what Keith Butler said?
Quite a bit. You know, he started off by saying, I like 42. So a stamp of approval for James Pierre based on how he played against Dallas. It's really trending as if Pierre is going to be the guy who comes in when Cam Sutton goes inside in the dime. Looks like we know what the base is going to be. Looks like we know what the dime's going to be. Now the question is, can Brooks be the nickel, or are they going to have to come up with a plan B there? Conversely, Keith Butler was asked about his backup inside linebackers, and he said, we've got to see what's going on there. In other words, nobody got the seal of approval. That is still a work in progress in terms of reliable depth, guys you can put in the game to have confidence in. And Keith Butler also talked about a couple of the coverage busts that we saw in that Dallas game. You know, one play in particular people might remember, there was a bootleg right, and both Robert Spillane and Cassius Marsh ended up rushing the quarterback playing the bootleg, and nobody covered the fullback, Siwu Olanalua, and he ended up with a 17-yard gain. Keith Butler said, yeah, obviously one guy is supposed to get the QB, the other guy is supposed to be in coverage, and there was more than one play where that occurred. Keith Butler not a big fan of those coverage busts because he says the NFL quarterbacks will find those, and those will get you beat every time. Physical mistakes, they don't mind. If you get beat, tackle the catch, live to fight another day, but you can't just give it to them. And then in terms of the practice, play that kind of got my attention, Devin Bush, all 5'11", 234 pounds of him, covering Pat Freiermuth, all 6'5", 258 pounds of him in a one-on-one coverage pass route drill. And Freiermuth got behind Bush, but Bush was able to catch up and get his hands up in the air and make a play on the ball. And that's how Devin Bush does it. You know, he's a smaller guy, so you think he might get picked on by those bigger tight ends, but he finds a way to stay around, be around the ball, and fight, keep fighting, and make a play on it. Now, the flip side of Devin Bush in coverage, he's having a little trouble with number 22, the first-round running back out of Alabama. He had a little bit, it looked like yesterday, in 7 shots, there was an incompletion from Ben Roethlisberger to Najee Harris. But, boy, I thought if that was a game and there were some zebras here, there would have been yellow flags flying, Missy.
Yeah, and Devin Bush, of course, working his way back from injury. We've seen him do more and more here as training camp has progressed to not play on Thursday in the Hall of Fame game, along with a number of other starters. You mentioned Pat Freiermuth. The good news is he's back out there today. He also did not play in the Hall of Fame game. Matt Canada, in terms of offense, what did you take away from his availability yesterday?
I really liked what he had to say about Dwayne Haskins, and it kind of raised my eyebrows a little bit when we talked to Haskins last week, and he said Mike Tomlin had been calling him check down. And I hadn't, particularly noticed that Haskins was passing up on deep balls to check it down and go for that high percentage sure completion. And we asked Cannon about that, and he basically said it's Mike Tomlin playing a mind game with Dwayne Haskins, because if you say that to some people, they're going to say, oh, check down. What, do you think I'm checked down? Watch this. And then they're going to start forcing it down the field and risk interceptions. Matt Canada made a point of emphasizing that they can't turn it over first and foremost. After that, you can try to make plays. But Haskins was given a passing grade by both Tomlin and Canada in terms of the decisions he made in that Dallas game and that check down stuff. Canada said Haskins, quote, I think he's doing a good job not letting Coach Tomlin talk him into doing something silly. So that's pretty good stuff. Mike Tomlin trying to goad a player who he's trying to find out about into a mistake to see if the guy's mentally tough enough to say, no, I'm doing the right thing. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Triv, what are you looking forward to in terms of practice today based off of coming off of the first preseason game and what you saw yesterday?
I think they're going to continue to work on what they've been working on. No pads today, so it can't get physical. But that coverage stuff, if you've got to sort out inside linebacker, and Keith Butler said yesterday they're still sorting that out, I think that coverage stuff is going to go a long, long way because as we've seen, those guys, when they're on the field, sometimes they get tested, and they get tested by people you might not necessarily think they're going to be able to cover, but they're going to have to find a way to do it. I also think there's been great give and take between the offense and the defense in 7 shots. I'm getting a kick out of that every day. And we saw more 2-minute stuff yesterday. Mason Rudolph able to get his group into the end zone. He was the second quarterback who worked. But Ben Roethlisberger picked off on the second pass by Minkah Fitzpatrick. Missy, it takes us back to the age-old training camp conundrum. It's like when Najee Harris beats Devin Bush. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's all Steelers versus Steelers right now. You know, that's why we need some more preseason games to help sort it out, right?
Absolutely.
All right, Triv, thanks as always for your time. We appreciate it. And as Mike had said a little bit earlier in his report, TJ Watt is out there at practice. He does have a helmet today. And yesterday, Coach Tomlin was asked after practice about Watt not participating in team drills. Let's take a listen.
I'm not speculating in that regard. I just focus on today and who's working and getting better that way. I'm sure that's going to naturally run its course. I know he's working hard with our trainers, and so we'll see where it all leads us.
And Wolf, there we see TJ Watt down on the field again. The Steelers are just going through some pre-warm-ups, some special teams right now. They'll do their warm-ups and stretch and then head over into individuals. You know TJ Watt, and just in terms of his mentality, we see him out on the field working. Do you have any doubt in your mind he'll be ready to go for the season?
Not in the least. You know, one thing that Mike Tomlin had talked about, TJ Watt, one of the specifics of the way he trains, he doesn't need other people to make him great. He's one of those guys that is a standalone guy with capabilities of training on the things that he needs to do. He does it on the field. You'll see him almost like a karate master, working on his hand play, you know, doing things there, and he'll do it by himself. And I believe that truly, when it's time to go, he's going to be ready to go, and he's going to be part and parcel of one of the best defensive fronts the Steelers have had in a while.
All right, shortly after the Steelers' participation in the Hall of Fame game, a report by ESPN came out that James Washington, Steelers wide receiver, had requested a trade. Of course, Coach Tomlin also asked about that yesterday as well. Here is his response.
He has not. Those unnamed sources we don't react to or respond to. James has been great here and working and having a good camp.
All right, we've talked a little bit about James Washington, Wolf, this camp, and just the depth at the wide receiver position, and is he necessarily getting lost in the shuffle? Maybe not as many reps as he would like, but we heard from Coach there, he set the record straight. But James is one of those guys I think we saw even when he came in as a rookie, a lover of football. He is very humble. He is not a diva wide receiver. He is a hard worker. He is pretty much everything you want to see in that position.
Exactly so, Missy, and he's a young man who has a sense of humility about himself when you talk to him, because he's a rancher's son. He understands what hard work and sometimes being overlooked is all about. And he certainly is one whose stock will rise at times because he's going to be called upon more. And he understands that. That's the nature of the game. And so he also realizes his production is going to be based on what he produces on the practice fields and when he steps into stadiums, as Mike Tomlin says. So all this being said, you know you have quality performances in this young man. Right now, you've got Chase Claypool, who is really emerging as a deep threat. You have Deontay Johnson, who gets a lot of targets, and you think, all right, this guy's got something special. And yeah, Juju is Juju. You don't want to overlook James, but at the same time, there will be times that he's going to be called upon to be the big dog. And one of the things I love about him, he's got rancher toughness. I mean, if you watched him in the game the other night, he had a nice block on a run to the outside. I loved it because he just got in there and dug that guy out and put him on the ground. That's what you expect from James Washington. He's one of these guys. He's a strong dude. He's a hard worker, and he is also one of those guys that knows sometimes you got to bide your time a little bit, and it'll come to you.
And we are taking a live look down on the field, also showing on the scoreboard, and you can see James not necessarily comfortable being up there. I'm sure he is going to be very excited, Wolf, when the cameras are not following him around as they're getting ready to begin practice here at Heinz Field. But what do you think in terms of just the wide receiver position, knowing that there has been an emphasis placed on improving the run game? You draft a running back in Najee Harris, 24th overall in the first round. They're going to plan to use him.
There's no question about it, and that's one of the things you start to think, all right, this division of labor that's going to occur. You got some draft picks in the tight end position. With Freiermuth, you think, okay, you get him, you got Najee. Najee is a 3-down back. He's going to be out there catching the football and running down the field. So there's a dispersal of targets that is going to have to be addressed. They're going to have to find out how it works. But that's the beauty of guys that can roll through all the XYZ positions and be able to play those positions, because putting people in different positions creates different matchup problems for the defense. And I can't think of a better bunch of guys that you want to create mismatches than with the Chase Claypools, the Deontay Johnson, the Jujus, and the James and Washingtons. And you throw in some guys like Pat Fryermuth, who we've seen him have some pass catching ability, or the Eric Ebron, right? But also Kevin Rader. People are talking about the first two guys, but Kevin Rader and Zach Gentry have done some fine work out here, both in practice. And I'll tell you, put the tape back on, and I highlight Kevin Rader in his blocking because he pancakes some dudes, okay? But Zach Gentry has gotten so much better in his blocking, more physical. Those two are starting to climb up the ladder there.
And due to Eric Ebron and Pat Fryermuth not playing on Thursday in Canton, those two guys got a lot of in-game repetition and reps and a chance to put something good on tape other than what we've seen from practice. And I know we say it all the time, but it's about what you do at practice and how that translates to a game. So for those two, you'd probably say arrows pointed up, as Coach Tomlin would say, in terms of JV, varsity, whatever Tomlinism you want to use. But as he has said numerous times, the players get that when you say that's a JV player, that's a varsity play.
It's understood. Everybody knows automatically what he's talking about. But we've seen with both Kevin Rader and with Zach Gentry a growth process. That's what you want to see. This is what you want to see out of your young bucks. Zach Gentry coming back with, looks out, he's eating steak more than hot dogs or something. He's filling out that big 6'8" body. And Kevin Rader, just muscled up and strong. I tell you what, that ham hock drive that he put on the Dallas dude to be able to drive Callan Ballage into the end zone, he pancaked that guy so hard, it was beautiful. You love to see that. So, those two young men are really making a play on the opportunities they're getting, and you hope to see more increased reps for them because, listen, there's nothing like competition in a room that creates the best play out of that group.
All right, let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball. As Mike said, Keith Butler spoke about a number of things yesterday. One of them was Minkah Fitzpatrick, just what they need to see for him taking that next step. He's talked a lot about being a vocal leader. Here's more from defensive coordinator Keith Butler on Minkah Fitzpatrick.
I expect a lot of him. He's a coach on the daggum field, He knows a lot about football. The only thing he pissed me off a little bit about is, let me call the plays. So I don't blame him. I wanted to too when I was playing. He should. All of them. A smart guy should always want to do that. And there's going to probably come a time where we'll have a check or something like that we want him to initiate. And he's a good player for us. We're glad we have him. We're glad mentally he's where he's at. Because it always helps when you got good, smart football players.
He talked about, Minkah talked last week about being more vocal, being a lot more louder with the teammates. Are you noticing that leadership?
Right, yeah. The thing we have to have as a defense is and I always say this all the time, we need big mouths. Big mouths mean they're loud, they're echo the call and stuff like that. We got to have that from our linebackers. We got to have that from our safeties, and it's only going to help us if we get that.
All right. Well, if it was up to you, if you were the defensive coordinator, are you letting Minkah Fitzpatrick call some plays out there?
No, but I can understand Minkah wanting to because he certainly has the football knowledge. But just like Butsy said, we might have him initiate some checks from back quarterback position, and I understand that, and the thing is, what he's talking about, the big mouths, being able to echo the calls, so the calls are said several times over, that's important because communication skills are ginormous. When you get a full house, when you have the stadium rocking with 70, 80,000 people, or you're in a dome, it can be like a madhouse there. And you have to make sure everybody's getting the calls, everybody's getting the checks, everybody's on the same page. So it does take some quote-unquote big mouths to get the job done. And certainly with Minkah, I would think, I might give him a couple checks just from to initiate back there.
Now, in terms of what Prisuta was saying, Keith Butler, when asked about the depth at inside linebacker, he said, quote, still in question. How do guys maybe give themselves an edge or prove that they can be the backups to Devin Bush and Robert Spillane, Wolf, in your opinion, as we head into another preseason game in just a few days?
Exactly. So these are the ballistic boys. These are the guys like Marcus Allen, Buddy Johnson, and UG3. I look at these guys, and they have so much talent, so much physical attributes, their speed, their ability to get, deep in their drops, to come up and disengage off blocks. It's all about production. And the guys that start to separate themselves from the others, which naturally is a process that occurs with growth, you're going to see it. And I think Marcus Allen has made some strides. He's had to get a little bit stronger, because when you bear wrestle guys in the pits, you're going to have some problems with those 350-pounders when you're only a couple hundred pounds yourself. So you take a look at Ulysses Gilbert III. He's got some tremendous hops. He's quick, he can cover, but he's also got to be able to get off the blocks of those 300-pounders, and that's something he's gotten a little bit better at. He's going to have to keep working and progress and do the job. Biggest thing about it is it's the experience and the reps that they get. Buddy Johnson. Buddy just needs some time to be able to line up with his eyes, that inside traffic, and be able to beat those blockers to the point of triangulation. There's a back, there's a blocker, there's you. You've got to make sure that you beat that blocker to that point of attack so that you can maximize your ability to get after the guy and be able to turn the play and have the proper gap. So these are all things that just take reps. And so separation will come naturally as they find their groove and their rhythm.
All right, and we just saw Devin Bush a minute ago. He is set to speak to the media after practice, as is Chuks Okorafor. And I do, of course, Wolf, want to move to the O-line, as we always do at some part during our program. Chuks, one of those guys that we have seen limited amounts here in training camp. There you just saw Zach Banner walking by as well. He caught my eye. Probably, Robert Spillane doing a little yoga poses for us there. Oh, and there's Devin Bush. All right.
The last time I tried that, I almost headbutted myself out of unconscious.
Oh, boy. Well, we do not want that. We do not condone that at home. But there you see the O-line kind of transitioning, going over as a unit to work with Adrian Clem and Chris Morgan. What do you need to see from Chuks, hopefully, if we're able to see him on Thursday or one of the next 2 preseason games?
I think a couple of things that you want to see. Number one is, Chuks has gotten stronger. He's had now some ability to be able to get a number of starts. So he's finding that sort of dog in himself. He's got to find that there's something about being an offensive lineman. You got to get a little gritty, you get a little nasty. And Chuks has got so much athletic talent that sometimes I think his intensity isn't quite what it could be, because he's blessed with so much. And I think if he gets hold of that part of him that raises that intensity level a little bit, this young man can really do some outstanding things. And I think Adrian Clem is the guy that's going to pull that kind of dog edge out of him, get him, if you go back to Adrian Clem, watch him as a player. He had some dog in him. He got after people. And I think his physical style of play is going to translate real well here in the Berg. And for Chuks, I want to make sure that he's coming off the ball and doing those things that we want to see him block into the whistle. Oh, that's what I loved about Thursday night. These guys were blocking to the whistle.
All right, what are we seeing here as their beginning individuals?
Well, right now they're going to start warming up. It looks like, and I don't know whether they're going to do run blocking. Yes, coming off with run blocking. You can see the difference from the age of my age. We came off and we led with the head. Well, now they lead with their hands. It's important to get the hands in front so you don't lead with the head. And Chuks right now is working on arms inside and working on his blocking form. You can see Adrian right now, Adrian Clem, that is, the offensive line coach, is instructing him on the hitting points, his focus on what he's trying to hit, the outer third, inner third, what have you, but also the strike with the hands. He's emphasizing you got to strike with the hands, fellas. We don't want to lead with the head anymore. We want to strike with our hands so that we can get inside control, because the man who has inside control is going to win the battle.
There we're seeing rookie center Kendrick Green, who got the first start in Canton in terms of that position. What else can he do as he takes the next steps? More practice, no pads yet this week, but then heading into a second preseason game where I imagine the rookies are still going to continue to get some work, Wolf.
No question about it. And the young Kendrick Green acquitted himself very well first time out. Looked like he was comfortable with directing traffic down there with the verbiage and terminology. The other thing that I noticed with him, he's got some issues. He's got to finish off with getting to the second level and not overrunning the guy in the second level. You get really kind of jacked up, so you're doing a double team with somebody or a scoop on the backside, where maybe the backside guard in the center are working to the second level and the down lineman, and you overrun because you're just so eager to come off on that linebacker. But if you hang with your guard on the backside and secure that, help him secure that, and then in a good timely fashion come off to go to that second level, you'll be able to do a much better job. And I think for him it's just getting comfortable with knowing that timing. It's a difficult thing because some linebackers, they flow really fast, some are slower, some they'll mess with you, they'll fake one way, and so you've got to really find that sort of speed that you need to come off on the double team and be able to help your teammates. The other thing is making sure that you stay square. When you've got two guys, one on each side, guards, all right, you want to make sure you are able to see both the right and to the left so that you don't favor one side and get yourself turned and get picked. That's one of the things that can really hurt a young center.
I did want to ask you one more question about Chuks Okorafor. Obviously, Zach Banner won that right tackle position. He got hurt, Chuks stepped in, but then Kevin Colbert told us heading into this training camp that they felt Chuks was more natural at the left tackle position. What is that transition like for him?
I think it's a comfortable one. If you're left-handed, that's the biggest thing. Everything just kind of starts with that left-handed thing. It's like when Tunch came over from the right tackle to the left when he was a young buck. He was in foreign land. He was all goofed up. He went to the right tackle and everything fell into place, and he's one of the all-time greatest. But on the left side, it was a little bit different. Like, for instance, when we played the Jets and Reggie Doss ear-holed me because Tunch didn't pick up Reggie Doss, and I hold that against you today, Chaluch, because he knocked Reggie Doss. He just knocked the stuffing out of me. But it's about a comfortability because you're left-hand dominant or right-hand dominant, or the fact that even if it's your off-dominant hand, you've been there long enough that you feel things very comfortably, and you see the twists and stunts out of the correct position that you're comfortable with. It's not a surprise to you.
All right, since we're talking about the Steelers offensive line, we will pause to talk about Alan Faneca. It is his big night tonight in Canton. He was there to watch three people very close to the Steelers organization be enshrined last night. But tonight, he gets his chance to go up there. Wolf, I'm sure you're excited to hear what Faneca is going to say when he gets a chance to take the podium.
No doubt about it, Missy. He is one of the guys that I've always enjoyed. Whenever you have a conversation with him, whenever you have an opportunity to just talk with him and that, you realize this is a guy who, he epitomizes humility and yet the strength of character of this man and what he does both on a team and as a family man. You can't help but not be appreciative of it. He's just a great husband, a great father, a great leader in the locker room, and he was, of course, a great player. And, Tatupu, the linebacker that he wiped out on the Willie Parker run, I think he remembers Alan Faneca.
No doubt about it. I had a chance to catch up with Alan Faneca on Friday in Canton heading into the big weekend. Let's take a listen.
I go back to mom and dad and, everything from youth sports, all the traveling and the support that they gave me. Every last one of my coaches, man, I was just truly blessed to have great coaches at every step of the way. And my teammates, all of them, the kids that challenged me. I got a friend coming from, back in the day, we played like 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12-year-old basketball against each other, right? We played against each other, and then we always make the all-star team and play together. But we always had this kind of like yin and yang, kind of push and pull fight against each other just to compete. And who knows if we don't do that at that age, right? What that pulled out of me, that competition. And it's interesting. You go through this process and you start thinking about all those little things like that you never really took the time to think about, but they had big impacts on your life.
All right, again, an early congratulations to Alan Faneca. My full interview with him is up on Steelers.com and the official Steelers mobile app. Of course, you can watch tonight on NFL Network, and we will have complete coverage as well. So, again, a special weekend. As Triv said, this is never going to happen again, where you have 5 players, and of course something tonight for Bill Nunn as well, who was already officially enshrined in April, but his family, I know, is in Canton as well.
How awesome is that? I can't even begin to put to words the respect I have for the whole Nunn clan, for what they've done for Pittsburgh football, the Steelers, and just by and large, they're just great people if you have the chance to sit with them. And as I always finish with when I talk about Bill Nunn, it's like staying at Holiday Express. You're just smarter for having hung out with him. He was just that smart of a man. And as they always used to say at the end, Wolf, you may be the only player I missed on.
All right, we are taking a live look down at the defensive line now here inside Heinz Field. They are still in the individual portion. So what are you seeing from this group, Wolf?
You know, here's the thing about it, 9-6. I saw a lot of 9-6 in Canton. I don't know who just got knocked out there.
Oh, no.
Cam, poor Cam.
No, I think Cam's just being silly. Cam knows he's on the scoreboard.
He must be, exactly so. Isaiah Buggs. I saw a lot of this guy making some plays, doing some things that, you know, you'd hope to see him doing, but we've kind of not seen a whole lot of it in the first couple of years. Well, I thought he started to turn the page there, and we saw a good representation of himself. We saw 73, Carlos Davis, get some hits on the quarterback. He's a very explosive dude, something that you want to see more of, and I thought he put in some good time there. Chris Wormley did some good things, you know. So as these guys continue to grow, they're going to have to exhibit more and more the ability to get after it and do the things that they need to do. But I'll tell you, another guy that made me take notice was Isaiah Loudermilk, 92. You know, I watched him. He had a great extension on his lockout. He was very good with his feet coming down on the backside. He disengaged and came off and made tackles. You know, I thought, okay, that's a good first outing for that young man.
All right, so we've heard a few people say that Isaiah Loudermilk is kind of like a small Cam. Keith Butler said it again yesterday. Why is that comparison being drawn other than the obvious?
Well, if you notice and look at him, first of all, his body type. You know, he's got a very similar body type to Cam. It's kind of like pre-Cam before Cam became Cam.
So when Cam was first with the Steelers.
Yes.
Before, you know, when he was learning
Yes.
behind the Brett Kiesels and Aaron Smith is what you're saying.
One of the things that,
Okay.
yes. I might be moving a little too fast for myself here, Missy, so you might want to.
I caught up. I'm up to speed. I got you.
I might
now.
have to check myself here, okay? But, you know, you see him, and normally in the 3-4 defense, a lot of those 3-4 ends, like the Kiesels, like the Aaron Smiths, you need a little bit of time to grow them. You need some time to put the weight on them, and also the strength and understanding how to do it Steeler style. That is the 3-4 with the extension of the lockout, making sure to keep enough body lean to neutralize the offensive lineman, being able to stay square, not be getting yourself one-dimensional turning and running. Those are the things that young guys come in with not, you know, bad habits in, and it's just a process of eliminating, as I always used to say, and it's now Carl Dunbar, but John Mitchell, he was like a one-man Paris Island. He will break you down and then rebuild you in the form that the Steelers want, and the same thing happens with Carl Dunbar. He is putting some good players out there. Henry Mondu is another guy that we saw have some growth under Carl Dunbar. He's done some good stuff. So again, the Loudermilk young man, he just needs a little bit of tempering. He needs some weight training, but I like what I've seen thus far out of him.
All right, let's move over to the running backs to give you a live look at them now here at practice. Again, practice is open to the public today, tomorrow, and Tuesday. The Steelers are closed on Wednesday, game on Thursday, day off on Friday. I know it's Sunday, but I really don't know what day of the week it is. Well, we're kind of in that training camp mode where all the days are running together. But there we see Najee Harris. I liked what Coach Tomlin said about him after the game. He did what they asked him to do. He did the routine things routinely. What's step 2? What's the next step for Najee Harris as we head into this Eagles game?
Wash, rinse, and repeat. And that's as simple as it gets, because one of the things that you saw, and you've just talked about it, Mike Tomlin really talked about the mantra of routine things done routinely over and over again, because a young man like this, gifted with so many talents and being a first-round draft pick, there's a lot of eyeballs staring at you, and you want to impress, you want to show them that you're worthy of that number 1 pick. So there's always that internal combustible type pressure to do something spectacular. Don't worry, the spectacular will come. Out of routinely doing the routine things comes the spectacular. As Chuck Noll always used to say, the great ones are simply the guys that did the fundamentals better than anybody else, because out of that solid rock of fundamental football that you play rises the cream, and blessed with your own intangibles that God gave you, intangible attributes. The spectacular comes. We saw nothing more than a greater example of that last night than Troy Polamalu, when he talked about the fact, my rookie year, they're talking about me like I'm a bust. You know, I know that there were some people that said it. I wasn't one of them because, you knew that there was something special with this young man when you talked to him. But the fact of the matter is to see the heights that he rose to, the fact that he just turned that free safety position into something so spectacular. That's doing the routine plays routinely until it becomes spectacular.
Troy even said in one of his interviews prior to going into the Hall of Fame that his rookie year was his favorite because it set the tone for what his career became, and said he needed to go through those hard times in order to achieve the greatness that he ended up doing.
It's the same way that they refine silver, just through the little fire, little testing, retesting, and all the stuff that doesn't merit keeping in the silver, you get rid of. And that's the same thing that happens with great ball players. And we see that Troy Polamalu, he's one of those guys that really manifests what it means to be great. Donnie Shell, undrafted free agent coming to the Steelers. And he came here because he was promised an opportunity. And he took Chuck Noll at his word. His coach believed Chuck Noll. Those types of things, they set the stage for the phenomenal finish, where a guy just finishes it, comes in, has a career, and finishes it in such a glorious style as those gentlemen have shown. I can't say enough about the fact that that growth process is available to all, but it's few that can actually accomplish it.
All right, there we see Najee Harris talking with running backs coach Eddie Faulkner. To his right, Derek Watt. Matt Canada was asked about him yesterday and said, I think Derek is going to be a big part of what we do in certain games. What do you see Derek's role being this season? I
see Derek's role being just as I said, being up in Nemacolin Woodlands, hanging out, having a little coffee, Joe, and seeing a bison go by going, that looks like he'd be a fullback. That would be a Derek Watt. I see the ability that Derek has shown. A wheel route 30 yards down the field, catching the ball. We saw it, he scored a touchdown in another scrimmage where he one-handed a catch, I see him on leads, being up, going in. He's not a squatter in the hole. He's one of these guys that has a 1-foot takeoff and he launches into guys. When I say launch, I'm not talking about head first and diving, but driving through in a running fashion rather than stopping, taking on the defender, and then trying to accelerate your feet once you stop. He just try to run through a guy. He's a member of the Fraternal Order Flat Nosers, okay? This guy just comes out, he's a crusher. He's a core 4 special teams guy. I think that they can maximize his pass catching a little bit more. Certainly, it'd be nice to see him run the ball a couple of times, but really, let's face it, with Najee, not really.
Right.
But his blocking is something that I think that they can use, especially when he gets up to the H-back as well as the fullback position.
All right, Wolf, I just heard the horn. That means they are heading into team competition. That is going to do it for this edition of Training Camp Live presented by FedEx. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you a little bit later for the Training Camp Wrap-Up Show.